Pirates buried their swords in sand for decades, pulled them out gleaming like new. Your kitchen knife rusts after one dishwasher cycle. The difference isn't what you think. It's not the metal, the climate, or luck. There's a forgotten technique that died with the golden age of piracy, and it changes everything. Ever wonder why your brand new garden tools turn into rusty junk faster than a politician changes campaign promises? Meanwhile, pirate cannons pulled from 300-year-old shipwrecks still shine like they were forged yesterday. Well, buckle up, because those old sea dogs knew something about metalwork that makes our modern techniques look like amateur hour. Pirates didn't mess around with fancy metallurgy textbooks or engineering degrees. They forged iron the way your grandfather fixed everything, with patience, skill, and zero tolerance for shortcuts. These guys preferred wrought iron over the brittle cast iron that was becoming popular back then. Smart choice, really. See, wrought iron contains way less carbon than cast iron. What's the big deal about carbon? Too much carbon makes iron crack under pressure like a bad marriage. Pirates needed their weapons and tools to bend without breaking when facing storms that could snap masts in half. Less carbon meant their iron could flex and survive conditions that would shatter modern alloys. But here's where it gets interesting. By 1700, the average pirate's tools lasted twice as long as anything made with conventional 17th century methods. That's not luck. That's superior craftsmanship disguised as criminal activity. Pirates often kept blacksmiths right on their ships. These weren't weekend warriors hammering horseshoes. These were master craftsmen who understood that survival at sea meant having tools that worked when your life depended on them. Fresh repairs, custom work, and constant maintenance became part of daily pirate life. Comparing pirate iron to our modern mass-produced metal is like comparing a hand-tailored suit to something you'd grab off a discount rack. One fits perfectly and lasts decades. The other falls apart after a few washes. Pirates chose quality over convenience every single time. Their blacksmiths worked with basic techniques that focused purely on durability. No shortcuts, no rushing the process, no cutting corners to save a few coins. They heated, hammered, and shaped each piece like their lives depended on it, because, frankly, they did. The irony? Our ancestors figured out rust prevention using nothing but fire, hammer, and centuries-old wisdom. They didn't need chemistry labs or fancy protective coatings. They just understood iron better than we do today. Now, having superior iron was only half the battle. The real secret wasn't in the forging, it was in what pirates did to their iron after they made it. While pirates were hammering out durable wrought iron, they discovered something that would make their grandfather's blacksmith weep with envy. Fish oil. Not the fancy omega-3 capsules your doctor keeps pushing, but genuine, stinky, straight-from-the-catch fish oil that turned their iron tools into rust-fighting champions. These seafaring rebels weren't exactly marine biologists, but they stumbled onto pure genius. Every time they hauled in a net full of mackerel or cod, they'd extract the oils and slather them onto every piece of iron they owned. Swords, hammers, nails, buckles, everything got the fish oil treatment. The result? A waterproof coating that laughed in the face of saltwater. Here's where it gets interesting. Modern science confirms what these scurvy-ridden sailors figured out 3 centuries ago. Fish oils contain natural compounds that create an impermeable barrier against moisture. It's like wrapping your iron in an invisible raincoat that actually works. But wait, there's more. And I sound like a late-night infomercial host, don't I? These oils pull double duty. While protecting the iron, they also condition the leather sheaths, wooden handles, and rope rigging. One treatment, multiple benefits. Talk about efficiency that would make a modern productivity guru jealous. A ship's log from 1690 recorded something remarkable. Tools treated with fish oil lasted 4 years longer than untreated metal. 4 years. Your modern drill bits barely survive 4 months of regular use. Yet pirates were getting nearly half a decade from hand-forged tools using nothing but fish guts and elbow grease. The process wasn't exactly pleasant. Picture a grown man rubbing cod liver oil into a cutlass while gagging from the smell. The aroma could knock a seagull out of the sky at 50 paces, but pirates weren't concerned with aromatherapy. They needed tools that wouldn't crumble into orange dust after a few months at sea. Smart pirates reapplied the oil after every major storm or battle. They understood that harsh conditions stripped away the protective coating faster than a con artist strips away your life savings. Regular maintenance wasn't optional, it was survival. The beauty of this system lay in its sustainability. Every fishing expedition provided fresh supplies of protective coating. No need to dock at expensive ports or barter with suspicious merchants. The ocean provided both the threat and the solution. Then there's the matter of application technique, which these maritime warriors perfected through trial and plenty of error. But their oiling methods were just the beginning of their anti-rust arsenal. Here's where pirates got really clever with their sticky situation. Tar wasn't just for patching holes in ship hulls, it became their secret weapon against rust. Every pirate ship carried barrels of the stuff. Pine tar, specifically. You know that black, gooey mess that sticks to everything? Well, that's exactly what made it perfect for protecting iron. Pirates would slather it on their weapons, tools, and anything metal that mattered. But here's the thing most people don't realize. Tar was like having a mobile rust prevention factory right on deck. While landlubbers were watching their iron turn orange faster than a pumpkin patch, pirates were essentially vacuum sealing their metal in nature's own protective coating. The process was surprisingly simple. Heat the iron slightly, brush on the tar, and let it dry. The tar formed an airtight barrier that salt water couldn't penetrate. Think of it as shrink wrapping your tools, except with 17th century technology. Now, tar wasn't maintenance-free. Heavy storms would wash some of it away. Constant use would wear it down. Pirates had to reapply it regularly, but here's the kicker. They always had fresh supplies. Every time they careened their ship for hull maintenance, they'd harvest the excess tar for their iron protection needs. A typical barrel of pine tar weighed about 200 pounds and could coat an entire ship's worth of iron twice over. That's a lot of rust prevention floating around the Caribbean. Pirates treated tar like liquid gold because, frankly, it was almost as valuable for keeping their weapons functional. The really smart part? Pine tar had bonus features. It fought off fungus and mold, which was crucial in those humid, salty environments where everything seemed to rot or rust within months. Your average pirate cutlass, properly tarred, could outlast 3 generations of untreated swords. But wait, there's more to this story than just slapping tar on everything. Pirates discovered something that would make even modern metallurgists jealous. They figured out that combining tar with another common ship material created an almost indestructible coating. What was this mystery ingredient that turned good protection into legendary durability? Well, it was hiding in plain sight on every pirate vessel, and the way they used it would make you rethink everything you know about metal preservation. The answer lies in their next ingenious method. Now here's where pirates got really clever, and it wasn't just about looking scary. When pirates heated their iron red hot and dunked it into oil or seawater, something magical happened. The metal turned black as midnight. But this wasn't some primitive paint job. This blackening process created a tough oxide layer that acted like invisible armor against rust. The pirates stumbled onto what modern metallurgists call controlled oxidation. Smart cookies, those sea dogs. But here's the kicker. This blackened finish served double duty. While your neighbor's shiny sword would catch sunlight and give away his position faster than a guy wearing white socks with sandals, pirate weapons stayed hidden in shadows. Perfect for sneaking up on merchant ships or avoiding detection during night raids. The process itself was surprisingly simple. Heat the iron until it glowed like an angry lobster, then quickly plunge it into whatever liquid was handy. Oil worked best, but desperate times called for seawater dunks. The rapid cooling created that protective black skin that could last months under harsh conditions. And let's be honest, it looked absolutely terrifying. Pirates figured out that different cooling methods produced different results. Oil quenching gave a deeper, more durable black finish. Water cooling was faster, but sometimes left the surface slightly less protected. The experienced blacksmiths traveling with pirate crews knew exactly which method to use for each piece of equipment. This wasn't a one-and-done deal, though. Smart pirates checked their blackened weapons regularly, especially after fierce battles or storms. When the black coating started wearing thin, usually after 3 to 4 months of heavy use, they'd repeat the process. By 1710, roughly 1 in 4 pirate weapons bore this blackened finish. Ship captains started requesting it specifically because they noticed these weapons lasted significantly longer than untreated iron. Word spread faster than gossip at a church social. The maintenance routine became almost ritualistic. Pirates would gather around the forge during calm seas, watching their weapons get the blackening treatment. It became a bonding experience, like modern guys working on cars together, except with more rum and significantly higher stakes. But here's what really separated pirate iron from everything else. They weren't just fighting rust on the surface. The real battle was happening at a molecular level, and pirates had accidentally discovered techniques that wouldn't be fully understood by scientists for another 2 centuries. The blackening was just the beginning. What they did next to combat salt, the ultimate iron killer, would make your chemistry teacher weep with joy. Saltwater was basically kryptonite to iron back in the pirate days. Well, it still is today, but pirates had to deal with it 24/7. Every wave that crashed over the deck, every gust of salty wind, every drop of ocean spray was like sending a personal invitation to rust. The stuff was relentless, but here's where pirates got clever. They knew fresh water was liquid gold on the high seas, yet they still used it religiously to rinse their weapons and tools after salt exposure. Think about that for a second. These guys would rather go thirsty than let their cutlass turn into an orange, crumbly mess. Makes sense when your life depends on that blade working when some angry merchant decides to fight back. The routine was simple, but genius. After every storm, every battle, every time the sea decided to throw a tantrum, out came the precious fresh water. They'd carefully wash down their iron like they were bathing a newborn baby. No joke. I've seen modern sailors do the exact same thing with their equipment today, and they've got unlimited fresh water at the next port. Pirates also figured out something that would make any storage expert proud. They positioned their ironware as far away from direct salt exposure as possible. Special compartments wrapped in oiled cloth, tucked into the driest corners of already cramped ships. These weren't just hiding spots, they were strategic fortresses against corrosion. The math was brutal, but simple. Leave iron exposed to salt air for 1 week, and you'd see rust starting to bloom like some ugly flower. But rinse it with fresh water daily? That same piece could last months without significant damage. Pirates weren't mathematicians, but they could count dead crewmates who trusted rusty weapons. What's really impressive is how they turned this into a crew-wide obsession. The ship's quartermaster would inspect weapons regularly, and heaven help the sailor whose cutlass showed signs of neglect. It wasn't just about keeping your gear clean, it was about keeping everyone alive. The captain's orders were usually crystal clear. Salt kills iron. Iron keeps you breathing, so wash the damn things. Not exactly Shakespeare, but effective communication nonetheless. Freshwater rationing meant every drop counted, yet weapon maintenance never got skipped. Even when crews were down to their last barrels of drinking water, they'd still save some for their iron. Talk about priorities. But washing was just the beginning of their anti-corrosion arsenal. The real magic happened when pirates combined salt management with their other preservation tricks. Pirates weren't just tough fighters, they were obsessive about maintenance. While landlubbers treated their tools like disposable razors, pirates babied their iron like it was their firstborn child. Every single morning started the same way. Before breakfast, before checking the weather, before doing anything else, they cleaned every piece of iron on their person. Cutlasses got wiped down. Pistol barrels got inspected. Even the buckles on their boots received attention. This wasn't vanity, it was survival. The cleaning ritual was methodical. First came the saltwater rinse to remove any crusty buildup from the previous day's adventures. Then, a thorough drying with whatever cloth they had handy. Pirates learned quickly that leaving even a drop of moisture was like sending an invitation to rust. But here's where it gets interesting. After cleaning came the oiling ceremony. Pirates would warm fish oil between their palms, yes, their bare hands, and massage it into every surface of their iron tools. They'd work it into grooves, around hinges, under guards. The whole process took about 15 minutes per weapon. Makes sense when you realize these weren't just tools, they were life insurance policies. The blackening touch-ups happened weekly. Pirates would heat their blades over small fires and apply fresh coats of protective coating. Watching a pirate crew do maintenance looked more like a religious gathering than weapon care. Everyone participated. Everyone knew the stakes. Then there's the inspection routine. During calm seas, when the ship wasn't rocking like a drunk sailor, they'd examine every piece of iron under magnifying glasses made from polished crystals. Looking for tiny rust spots was like hunting for treasure, except finding it meant trouble. The weird part is how seriously they took storage. Pirates created special compartments lined with oiled leather to keep their iron away from salt spray. These weren't fancy, just practical solutions that worked better than most modern gun safes. Well, the maintenance wasn't just individual effort either. Crews worked together, sharing oils, helping with hard-to-reach spots, teaching newcomers the proper techniques. A pirate's iron was only as good as his knowledge and his discipline. By the 1700s, these maintenance rituals had become so ingrained that pirates could perform them blindfolded during storms. Their muscle memory was that precise. But what really separated pirate iron from everything else wasn't just the maintenance. It was the secret ingredients they mixed into their protective treatments. And these natural additives, they changed everything about how iron behaved in harsh conditions. Here's something that'll blow your mind. While modern metallurgists were still figuring out basic steel composition, some pirate crews were already mixing their own custom alloys using whatever nature threw at them. And I'm not talking about some mystical alchemy here. These guys stumbled onto legitimate metallurgy by pure necessity. See, when you're stuck on a remote Caribbean island with broken tools and the nearest blacksmith is 3 months sailing away, you get creative fast. Pirates discovered that certain beaches contained natural deposits of nickel, manganese, and even traces of chromium mixed right into the sand. Sounds like a chemistry textbook, right? Well, these uneducated sea dogs were accidentally creating stainless steel variants centuries before anyone gave it a fancy name. The process was simpler than your grandmother's apple pie recipe. They'd heat their iron in makeshift forges, then sprinkle in sand from specific locations. Usually volcanic beaches where different minerals had settled over thousands of years. The heat would bind these elements into the iron structure, creating what we'd now call a natural alloy. But here's where it gets interesting. Different islands produced different results. Cuban beaches gave iron a silvery tint and incredible flexibility. Jamaican volcanic sand created a darker, harder finish that could slice through rope like butter. Some crews became so obsessed with finding the perfect mineral combination that they'd map beaches based on their metallurgical properties rather than fresh water sources. One particularly clever captain, whose name history forgot but whose techniques survived in old ship logs, discovered that mixing crushed seashells into the heating process added calcium carbonate. This created a protective layer that made rust practically impossible. The guy was basically running a floating material science lab without knowing it. The really wild part? These natural additions often work better than anything we mass produce today. Modern steel manufacturers spend millions trying to achieve the corrosion resistance that some pirate crews created with beach sand and crushed shells. Of course, not every experiment worked. Plenty of pirates ended up with brittle, useless metal that shattered at the worst possible moments. But the successful combinations became closely guarded crew secrets, passed down like family recipes. The knowledge was so valuable that rival crews would sometimes torture captured pirates just to learn their alloy techniques. Makes you wonder what else these supposedly ignorant criminals figured out through pure trial and error. But even the best natural alloys meant nothing without proper preservation methods. And pirates had developed some truly ingenious ways to keep their enhanced iron looking pristine for decades. The most brilliant preservation methods pirates used have vanished completely from modern memory. And frankly, that's our loss. Take their coconut oil barrel trick. When docked at tropical ports, pirates would completely submerge their iron tools in barrels filled with coconut oil. Not just a light coating. We're talking full immersion for weeks at a time. The oil penetrated every microscopic pore in the metal, creating what basically amounted to iron armor against rust. My grandfather, who worked on merchant ships in the 1940s, told me stories about finding old barrels like this on abandoned beaches. The metal inside, still pristine after decades. But here's where it gets really interesting. Pirates didn't just dump their iron and walk away. They rotated the pieces every few days, ensuring even coverage. Kind of like how your wife insists on turning the roast every 20 minutes, except this actually made sense. Then there's the clay wrapping method. Sounds crazy, right? Pirates would coat their most valuable iron pieces in a special clay mixture containing ash from burned seaweed. The clay dried into a protective shell, and when they needed the tool, they'd crack it open like an egg. The iron underneath emerged better than new. Well, what made this clay so special? The seaweed ash contained natural salts that actually fought against corrosion. It's the same principle behind modern rust inhibitors, except pirates figured it out 300 years ago using beach scraps. The weirdest technique involved burying iron in sand mixed with crushed oyster shells. Pirates would dig pits on remote islands, layer their metal with this mixture, and mark the spots with coded symbols. When they returned months later, the calcium carbonate from the shells had formed a protective coating on the iron. Better than any modern spray-on. Protectant you can buy at the hardware store. These weren't desperate measures either. Ship logs from the early 1700s show pirates planning these preservation stops like clockwork. They understood something we've forgotten, that taking care of your tools properly meant the difference between life and death. Makes sense, right? When you can't just pop down to the local Home Depot for replacements, you learn to make things last. As steam power and mass production took over in the 1800s, these time-intensive methods seemed pointless. Why spend weeks preserving iron when you could just buy new stuff? That mindset cost us centuries of accumulated wisdom about making metal last. The irony is delicious. Pirates, supposedly the most reckless people on Earth, treated their iron better than we treat our smartphones.